everyone. My guest today owns Monica's Yoga. She is a yoga instructor, and I'd like to welcome her. Monica Chalmers, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
So now I know that to be an instructor, it takes a lot of training, right?
Right.
So tell me about when you started, why you started, and how you got your training.
Okay, so most yoga instructors that are employed by studios, at least, will be required to have 200 hours of yoga training. If you are taking a yoga class at the Y or maybe a smaller gym, they may not require that. So I really wanted to get the 200-hour teacher training. And for me, at the time that I was trained, that was 2014, I think. And I had 2 teenagers in the house and 2 dogs and a new relationship. And I work as well on the side, and I just knew that taking a local training was not going to work for me. It wasn't going to be a place where I could really devote my attention to. So I decided to go away and do my training. So I actually lived in Paia, Maui for, I think it was 5 or 6 weeks. And we did our 200-hour teacher training there. And so no vehicle, just 2 feet and a heartbeat was what I said, and a backpack. And we did yoga from about 7:30 in the morning till about 4:30 in the afternoon. Every day, other than Sundays, I believe. I think that was our day off. And yeah, so that's how I got my teacher training.
So you're really immersed into it, weren't you?
Yes, very much so, which I really wanted to be because my background is not in a medical field or anything like that. I am a professional, but I have a completely different background. And so learning about the systems and the organs and everything was, very in depth for me, but I felt, like a fish out of water a little bit. So.
Okay. Now you first were introduced to it, like, as you said, as a home practice, a lot of people did, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I was first introduced to yoga through, oh my gosh, I'm going to date myself here, but through Rodney Yee's VHS practice. And he was an amazing teacher and had a fitness background. He was actually a ballerina. And so I came to the practice from more of a fitness background, looking for yoga, more of a power yoga, and also something to kind of like calm everything within me. And I just found that I really loved it. But I was struggling with trying to integrate what kind of yoga I wanted to do, because there are just so many different ones. And also, how do I get in my yoga practice when I also need to do some cardio? I also have kids at home. I also have a career, all of this was going on. So it took me a few years to really find my groove and to explore different kinds of yoga. And the first time I think I was actually in a studio was when we moved to Chilliwack, and there was a Bikram studio in town, and I became introduced to Bikram yoga, and I absolutely loved it. But I knew that that was the yoga that I wanted to take as a student, and it wasn't the yoga I wanted to teach as a teacher. So a lot of different considerations when you're looking at yoga and you're going into the field as a student or as a teacher.
No, one of the things that happened to you, you had were in a major car accident?
I was, yes.
Right, and you ended up with a lot of pain?
Yes, so in 2013, just before I decided to take my teacher training, my now husband and I were in a car accident on the #1 highway, and we were at a dead stop. There was traffic. I was towing our travel trailer, and we were hit by another truck and trailer. And so thankfully my travel trailer took most of the cushion for the impact, but because I was looking to the side when the impact hit and bracing for the impact, the entire right side of my body was all experienced soft tissue damage. And still to this day, it's a problem for both of us. So really it became a very therapeutic practice for me at that point. The focus became less of a fitness practice, and it became a much deeper practice for me, where I was able to integrate what I needed to fix in my body, and also in the mental health aspect of it, because being in a major car accident, it was very taxing on my mental health. And so I had some symptoms of PTSD. And so needed to go through some cognitive behavioral therapy to address that as well. And when I had never had any major car accident before, I'd never had any interaction with ICBC or how all of that worked and how to, heal yourself. And so I really put my trust and my body and my recovery in the hands of my medical team. And about 3 months in, they basically said, listen, everything we're doing is just making things worse. We're not too sure what's going on. And it was really at that point that I thought, this is my body. I need to take a little bit more responsibility for it. And I did trust people who I felt like had a lot more expertise in this area. And perhaps that was a mistake of mine at the start, but I really felt like I need to really empower myself towards healing. And I looked at it in a very holistic way. So, what I was eating, who I was around, what I was taking in all areas of my body, and then wanting to learn about my body and learn about, which areas were injured and what was it that was injured and why was I struggling with this so much? And that came to a place where very quickly I wanted to go to a yoga teacher training to learn more about the body, because when I was going through my degree, I only had one elective that I took in kinesiology, and I thought it was interesting, but like I said, it wasn't my background. So it was very important for me to go to a yoga teacher training and learn more about the body and how to heal myself and how to use my practice to heal myself. That was why I wanted to go to yoga teacher training. When I came back to Canada after being there, I thought, I have this beautiful knowledge that I've been given, and I'm going to use this for myself. But within a few months, I noticed that it was getting better. It still wasn't going to be to the point where it was completely healed. And, that was the diagnosis, is that I was going to deal with something the rest of my life. So I thought, if I'm going to deal with something the rest of my life, I'd like to know how to deal with it in the most peaceful, harmonious way with my body. And when I got back, I realized I can't just keep this to myself. It felt like I was hoarding information.
Okay.
And so I really wanted to gear my practice and gear my purpose in the practice to helping others who have injuries as well. And so that's where I started to really gear my teaching.
No, I believe there are different types of yoga, correct?
Yes.
So how many different types are there?
Oh gosh, there's lots of different types. So your basic, yoga practice is a hatha practice. It means a balance of sun and moon. So it's balancing, everything in your body. It's trying to come to a place where you feel a release of tension. You get to a place where your mental health is a lot more healthy when you leave the class. There's also Kundalini yoga, there's restorative yoga, there's yin yoga, there's vinyasa yoga, there's Bikram yoga. There's so many different types of yoga.
Wow, I didn't realize that. I can remember years ago when I was much younger doing yoga, and I would end up with such a headache. And I don't know if it's related, but on later years, as a matter of fact, like maybe 5-6 years ago, I learned that I had I have disc deteriorating in my back, and apparently it was an issue that a weakness that I was born with. That's what they determined. So now I'm wondering if that's why I was getting those headaches when trying to do yoga. Is that a possibility?
That's definitely a possibility. And that's the importance of when you go to your yoga class, is really talking to your teacher and, saying like, I have this issue. For me, having a chronic pain issue, it's always a little bit difficult, because I'm walking into a class basically saying to a teacher, I have this issue. It's not causing me any specific significant issues right now, and I know how to deal with it myself. And so I do have a lot of students that will come in and say that to me, and that's the importance of yoga. Is your yoga means that you're trying to find this union in your body. So union between your body, your mind, and your spirit. And so hopefully that's what we would cultivate when someone's looking for their practice. This ability to really learn more about yourself and to be curious in your practice as to what works for you and what doesn't work for you.
Right. Now, I know, so one of the places you taught was Studio B,
Yes.
correct? And is that in Sardis?
So Studio B was in Garrison. It was on Market Way, right in Garrison Village, and it was definitely my favorite place to teach.
Was it? Yeah. And now, where are you teaching now?
So right now I've decided to step away from teaching at a studio. Studio sort of shut down a little bit with COVID,
Right.
down quite a few times, and that impacted studio in Sardis quite a bit. We had, 2 studios that had shut down at the time. So basically there is really no yoga in Sardis right now. I understand there is another yoga studio that will be opening shortly, but I've decided to just take a step back from teaching in a studio because during the time that we were away from the studio, it gave me a little bit of a perspective as to how I wanted to proceed forward with my business.
Right.
Basically, what I am eager to do is to offer some events. So last year I started offering some events. I worked with Farmhouse Brewing on a yoga events, Lake Bottom Cider with a couple of yoga events. I worked with Stormy Smoothie Bowl on an outdoor yoga and smoothie event. So those are in the process for this year as well. The only thing I have on the calendar at this moment is a Lake Bottom Cider event, and that's on June, I believe it's the 18th.
Okay.
And so doing events is allowing me to connect with some regular students, but also offer yoga in a way that isn't a weekly practice. So I feel like people have sort of drawn away from a weekly practice or depending on a studio, and they've either disciplined themselves to a home practice and they're just looking for a fun event.
Yes.
What I want to offer people is an opportunity to come out, to practice together in community, to do so in a way that they feel comfortable with, and not to feel sort of obligated towards it. You know, maybe do your own yoga practice at home, discipline yourself towards that if you've been in a studio, and then come out for an event and feel the community around you. We call that Sangha. It's a Sanskrit word, it means community.
Okay.
Immerse yourself in that again, and then step back and see what sort of bubbles up for you.
Right. Now, who have been some of your yoga instructors?
So in Maui, I studied with Karen Kuhn and Nadia Chorman. More locally, I have taken classes with Colin. I've taken classes with Wendy Wayman. I've taken classes with Lauren Rogley. Who else? I'm trying to think of all the different trainings that I've taken. So you do your 200-hour yoga teacher training, and then from there, you can pretty much just stay with that, or you different yoga teacher training. So I have taken my yin teacher training, I've taken my meditation teacher training, I've taken my stand-up paddleboard yoga teacher training. So just different things that I've been really curious about and things that I know that I want to teach.
I think it's a great idea because it gives you a totally different perspective, or maybe a more rounded yoga instructor, right?
And it's hard to, you know, when you do your yoga teacher training, it's hard to get all of those things in a 200-hour training, right? Because there's so much on anatomy and, you know, on healing and on yoga philosophy and things like that, that it's really hard to even have maybe an hour on each one of those. So when you're able to take a specialized training, you know, you get an extra, say, 50 hours in yoga, yin yoga, or 50 hours in meditation, or, you know, another 16 hours on stand-up paddleboard. So it's been really helpful.
Right. Now, tell me about, I'm kind of intrigued about that stand-up paddleboard yoga.
Yeah, stand-up paddleboard yoga is one of my favorite things to teach. Obviously, I just do it seasonally. So usually between May and September. This year has been unseasonably cold, so I'm probably not going to be offering it until June. I was dealing with a recurrence of an injury as well, so that will probably slow down business for those classes for me this year. But I'm at least hoping to offer 1 or 2 classes. So what happens is I usually ask that everyone who comes out needs to be able to stand up and needs to be able to swim. Those are the safety things for them. You don't need to know how to do yoga beforehand, but having some information about it is always helpful. And you don't need to even paddleboard beforehand. So I do give some tricks for people, but again, having at least one class beforehand is also very helpful. So we meet at Main Beach Boat Rentals. That's where I do the classes. You can bring your own paddleboard if you have one, or you could rent one at the shop.
And where's that located?
In Cultus Lake at Main Beach.
Okay. Yeah, just and then, people are watching and they're new to the area, they might not be aware.
Yeah, so and then we have a little bit of an intro to the class, a little bit of an intro as to the terms that I use, so on the board and with the paddle. I have everyone take out an anchor with them on their board. We paddle to the site, which is about 10 minutes away. And then we set up the boards and we anchor off the back of the boards, and then we start our yoga practice. So our yoga practice is about 45 minutes.
Right.
And we start nice and low and slow. And we work from 4 points of balance on your board up into 1 point of balance.
That sounds nice. That sounds really nice, actually, to be able to go out somewhere on your paddleboard and then set up a. Yeah, sounds like something fun. I can't swim very well, so it's not something I would probably do unless I had a life jacket on. Yeah. But I'm sure it would appeal to a lot of people. Anyway, so and now you're currently, sorry, I'm just going off a little bit here. Now you're currently taking a yoga anatomy refresher course. Is that correct?
Actually, yes, I just finished that, and I'm actually taking now a yoga Nidra course.
What's Nidra? Yoga Nidra?
Yoga Nidra is a course where basically what you're doing in Yoga Nidra is you're doing a couple of different exercises. So, and they're mental health exercises, not physical exercises. So you lay down the body in a comfortable position, usually Shavasana, or what we call corpse pose. Right. Something that you can hold the position and you're prone for about 45 minutes.
Okay.
And then we cycle through round of consciousness going through the body. So usually starting with the right hand. And then you may have heard this before where it says, okay, starting with the right hand, then we go right thumb, right finger, middle finger, ring finger. So you're making your consciousness move through the body without actually moving the body. We do that a few times, and then we move into some breath work, and then you move into some visualization, and you have an intention for your practice. So you set that at the start, come back to it at the end, and then everything sort of settles in silence for a little bit, and then you come out of your practice.
Nice. Do you have a website?
I don't have a website right now. I can be found on Facebook and on Instagram. So on Facebook, I am Monica's Yoga, and the stand-up paddleboard portion of the yoga offerings are Sup Yoga with Monica. And then on Instagram, I'm yoga.withmonica.
Okay. So Facebook is Monica's Yoga. What was the other one?
Sup Monica.
Say that again. That's something you cut out just then as you were saying it.
Sup Yoga with Monica. So SUP.
Okay. Okay. Just so maybe, you cut out a couple of times, so I want to make sure people can hear. But anyway, yeah. So the easiest place, I think, probably to start off for most people would probably be Facebook, I would think, right?
Yeah, that's obviously the easiest way to contact me. I'm looking at a website, maybe closer to the end of the year or next year.
Okay, great. Well, this has been really interesting because, again, so many people know a little bit about yoga, but don't know how much can be involved or how much training is involved or
right.
That type. So it's certainly a learning experience for me. So thank you so much for doing this with me. I appreciate you being here.
Hey, you're welcome. Thanks for having me.
And just to online, I'm just going to say goodbye to everybody. This has been Monica Chalmers, and I will again repeat that she's on Facebook, Monica's Yoga. You can find her there and contact her if you are interested in taking any of her classes. And hope to see you again and come back and keep checking out the show and see who's on next. And take care, everybody, and peace out.
A sense of community, till it wax a place to be. A sense of community where you're free. Rolling through the mountains, rolling through the valley, rolling through paradise with me. It's multicultural, you're sure to see it all. Chilliwack's the place to be, you'll see. Come party in the park, go dancing after dark. Chilliwack's the place to be, you'll see.